A new era in Chapel Hill has begun under new head coach Bill Belichick, coming over from the New England Patriots via retirement. And with that being said, I've got a few special guests coming on the show today from the Tar Pit podcast, covering all things North Carolina to break down this year's season preview for the North Carolina Tar Heels. It's time to break the huddle. Joining me today, special guest from the Tar Pit podcast, Trevor and Troy. Trevor and Troy, good to have y'all today. I appreciate you joining.
Yes, sir. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. Good to be on here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate you having us, brother. Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining. So we're just going to jump right into it. New era under Bill Belichick. You know, North Carolina's been through a lot of coaching turnover, and now they bring in a Hall of Fame NFL, probably one of the greatest to ever do it, Bill Belichick. Obviously, with that being said, the media attention comes into Chapel Hill, and a lot of things shift. Just to start off the bat, I'd love to get y'all's initial take on your reaction when Bill Belichick was hired, and over the last several months, how have you seen that transition coming into the 2025 season?
I'll say, man, it's I still got to pinch myself. I say all the time we bring these guests on, and I don't know if it'll actually hit me until September 1st and he's on the sideline that Bill Belichick is our football coach, man. It's surreal to think, man, because forever we've been known as a basketball school, right?
Right.
We get a new chancellor, and all of a sudden all this money gets thrown to the football program that we've never saw before. So it doesn't seem real, but I've always been diehard football primarily, so I'm very excited for it for sure.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of you, Trev. I often find myself, and my wife laughs at me because I'll just be walking around the house thinking about Carolina football, and I'm like, Bill Belichick is really our head coach. Like, we really get to see the Belichick era in Chapel Hill, and I often I've told so many people that I never would have thought that breathing Bill Belichick and Carolina football in the same sentence would be a possibility, but here we are, right? So, yes, I was super excited to have him, come to Chapel Hill. Obviously, or what's the term? I'm following up Mac Brown and the foundation that he laid, and super thankful for Coach for bringing Carolina. He had a goal to bring Carolina, back to the spotlight, and I think he accomplished that. And I think all Carolina fans can really agree with that. But, it was time for us to at least make an effort at getting over the hump. And what better person to do that and to manage the way college football is now than a guy that's done it at the pro level, and college football is more so like that now than ever before. And I was more so excited. I was just as excited when we hired Bill, or it was when we hired Lombardi, as I was when we hired Bill Belichick, because he's another great football mind. So Keenan Football Center right now has a lot of buzz around it. There's a lot of, I guess you could say, momentum that they've created, especially on the recruiting trail. Now we'll see how it all turns out, and the product that's put on the field. But the vibes are good. I'm me as a Carolina fan, I'm excited. I'm excited to go into every year, but I'm more so excited for this year. There's a lot of anticipation, and I'm just looking forward to get the season kicked off. I think we're like 30 days away now, give or take.
Yeah, getting close, getting real close.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people miss the fact that even though, yes, Bill Belichick is known for his time in New England, that was the bulk of his Super Bowl era with Tom Brady, with those great Patriot teams. His heart is with college football. He grew up watching Navy football. He coached for the Browns, obviously, before too, and coached at some other places. But he has a great love for college football. We just never got to see that because it was so early on in his life. Some of us younger guys never knew about that. And then regarding Mac Brown, I grew up a Texas fan. Both my parents from Texas. Watching Mac Brown, Vince Young, those days, I was really pulling for Mac Brown to do something special in North Carolina. And, did he make the playoff? No. Did he do anything spectacular, maybe not, but he did get that program back to where it needed to be. Now the reins are handed over to Bill Belichick, and I think the Tar Heels are in good hands moving forward, even with the age of Bill Belichick, his son being the defensive coordinator now. We'll get into that in a second, but yeah, it's exciting. I think Tar Heel fans are excited. Obviously, y'all are pinching yourselves. I think anyone would if Bill Belichick chose to coach at that school. So let's jump over to the roster turnover, and we'll get into depth here in a second. But high player movement via the portal, in and out, and the identity reset on both sides of the ball. Bill Belichick, an old school guy, likes the underrated recruits, I would say. I mean, you look at the NFL level, and even then, he would take the draft picks that weren't necessarily the most flashy. Did he have the Randy Moss? Yes. Did he have some of these other guys? Yes. But the bulk of his roster was underrated dudes that just needed a chance to be in the right system. I think it's going to pay off here at Carolina. Love to get your quick take on that.
Yeah, man, he's known. That's what Bill is known for, is developing guys, right? I mean, he took arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't think many people would disagree with that. And what was he, a 6th-round pick, and turned him into the GOAT, right? And he's got a history of doing that with a lot of players. And I want to add one thing. You were speaking about Bill at college. I don't know if you knew this. I know many people don't, but Bill's dad actually coached a season in Chapel Hill at Carolina before going to Navy.
I did not know that.
That's a fun fact. Yeah. So there's a picture. We'll have to send it to you, but there's a picture of Bill and Keenan when he was like 7 years old.
Wow.
So it's a full circle moment, family affair. But man, that's a big thing that I'm excited about is his development that he's shown his whole career. Because I love Mac Brown. Don't get me wrong, but Mac landed a lot of big time recruits, and they just didn't develop like they were expected to be.
Sure.
So we had a lot of guys that were projected higher, and it just didn't really work out for them. So I'm very excited to see what Bill and the staff can do because he's did it his whole career.
Yeah, Troy.
I'll jump in here on that too. For Carolina, the Carolina fans and us included in that, I think they said at ACC Media Days we've got 70 new guys. Is that correct, Trevor? Did you hear that right?
Yep.
Yeah, 70. That's a lot of turnover, a lot of new faces in the building. And us as Carolina fans, we'd have guys jump in the portal, here and there. It was, guys that really, I wouldn't necessarily say didn't get a lot of burn. They just didn't get an opportunity. I guess you could say just didn't get an opportunity. It wasn't the right fit, and they went after different options. But it definitely unfamiliar territory for Carolina fans to see this much roster turnover leading into one season. But what better what better person to lead them than Belichick, and not even just that, but you look at the staff hires that he's made, and you look at that turnover. I mean, it's a whole brand new staff in the building. I think they hung on to a few guys, Freddie Kitchens, Natron Means. They promoted Freddie to OC. Natron is actually our running backs coach now, but and not only that, but you look all the way down to the strength and conditioning. Moses Cabrera, an NFL guy that comes in from the Patriots, I believe, and the time that he spent. So, Trevor talks about developing players. I will, it's undeniable what they've done with guys that they've had in the NFL and the sleeper guys, I guess you could say. But, I look at the staff that he hired and he put together, and all the way down to that strength and condition and the nutrition staff. We've talked to recruits that say it's top notch. Just be anxious to see how much they lean on that and, the fruits of their labor in the development department. I think they've got a good thing going with it.
And with that many players, man, we needed a culture shock. Because of where the program was at last year, man, it hit lows and it was going back. Mac had got us back going in the right direction. And then last year it was, especially when you lose to JMU, and we saw
you could feel it. You could feel it.
It was falling apart. So it was time for a new face in the building. And They really did that. When you go from Mac Brown to Bill Belichick, it's two totally different coaching styles. So
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it, Trev. You know, like a culture reset. You know what I mean? When you get that much roster turnover and you got a completely new staff, it truly is a new era for Carolina football. You know, it's really exciting and going to be exciting to see just how this thing plays out. We're along for the ride one way or the other.
Yeah, I think they're in good shape. And you mentioned a lot about the staff behind the scenes, right? It all starts with the CEO and Bill Belichick. He's obviously the guy that runs the show, and then their new GM. But I think the bulk of the work behind the scenes comes with your nutrition staff, comes with your strength and conditioning. That's where it all starts, right? It all starts with the fundamentals. How are you sleeping? How are you eating? How are you exercising and recovering? Then you learn the X and O's, and then you produce on the field, and that's where Bill Belichick comes in. So I think they're in good shape.